Hey there, and welcome. Today we are tackling a huge question that pops up everywhere, from massive construction sites to your own backyard DIY projects: galvanized versus stainless steel. My goal here is to make your next choice super simple, totally clear, and one you can feel great about. So let's jump right in. So picture it. You're at the hardware store, or maybe you're planning out a big project, and you're staring at two types of steel. They both promise to fight off rust, but wow, one is a whole lot cheaper than the other. So which one do you grab? Getting this wrong could mean some really expensive, frustrating repairs down the road. So let's make sure we get it right from the start. Okay, let's just cut right to the chase. Here's the bottom line, the most important takeaway. If your number one concern is budget and your project is in a pretty normal environment, galvanized steel is going to be your best friend. It's the workhorse. But if you need the absolute best, longest-lasting protection, especially in some really tough conditions, then stainless steel is the smarter investment. Now, let's get into the why. See, the real difference between these two isn't just about the price tag. It's all about how they're made and how they defend themselves from corrosion. You can think of it as a battle, an external shield versus a built-in internal defense system. So first up is galvanized steel. What this really is just standard carbon steel that's been given a protective jacket. It gets dipped into molten zinc, and that creates a coating on the outside that acts like a barrier against rain, moisture, you name it. The important thing to remember is that the steel underneath isn't rust-proof. Its coating is doing all the work. Now, stainless steel, it's a whole different ballgame. It isn't just coated with something. It's a completely different type of metal. It's an alloy. See, during the manufacturing process, they mix chromium right into the molten steel. And that chromium creates this invisible, tough layer on the surface that is, and you've got to hear this, it is self-healing. If you scratch it, the chromium instantly reacts with the oxygen in the air and repairs that protective shield. It's incredible. And honestly, this analogy is the absolute key to understanding everything. A raincoat is great, right? But if you tear a hole in it, well, you're going to get wet. Waterproof skin, on the other hand, just heals itself. This is the single most important difference to lock into your brain when you're making your choice. And to really hammer home that raincoat idea, just look at how it's made. First, the steel gets a deep clean. Then it's dipped into this giant vat of super hot zinc, which bonds to the surface. And then it just cools off. You can see right there, it's a process of adding a layer, not fundamentally changing the steel's DNA. All right, let's talk about the one thing that, for a lot of us, really drives the final decision: the money. But we're not just talking about the price you pay today. We're talking about the total cost over the entire life of your project. So the initial hit to your wallet is pretty obvious. Stainless steel can easily cost 4 to 5 times more than galvanized steel right off the bat. And for a big project, that is a massive, massive difference. It's the number one reason galvanized steel is so incredibly popular. But here is where the math starts to get interesting. That raincoat we were talking about, it wears out. If you're near the coast with all that salt in the air, or in an industrial area, you might find yourself repairing or even replacing galvanized steel parts every 5 to 10 years. Meanwhile, stainless steel, with its self-healing skin, can last for decades with almost no maintenance at all. So yeah, the more expensive option up front could actually end up saving you a ton of money in the long run. Okay, theory is great, but let's make this really practical. Where do you actually see these two types of steel being used out in the real world? And more importantly, why were they picked for those specific jobs? When you look at these common uses side by side, a really clear pattern starts to emerge, doesn't it? Galvanized steel is perfect for things like fences, balconies, and car frames, everyday stuff where the conditions are pretty moderate. But then you look at the stainless column, and it's a totally different story. Bridges, railings on boats, surgical tools. These are all jobs where failure is just not an option, and where you absolutely need extreme corrosion resistance or cleanliness. You would never, ever make a kitchen sink or a scalpel out of galvanized steel. So, to put it even more simply, think of it like this. For general construction, farm buildings, things like that, galvanized is king. But for anything that has to do with food, medicine, marine environments, or high-end architecture, well, That's where stainless steel is the undisputed champion. Okay, we've covered the what, the why, and the where. So let's pull all of this together into one final, super simple tool to help you make the perfect choice for your specific project. This is it. This is your cheat sheet. Just run your project through these 4 questions. First, budget. Are you thinking short-term savings or long-term value? Second, environment. Is it going to be near saltwater or harsh chemicals? Third, lifespan. Do you need this thing to last for 5 years or for 50? And finally, appearance. Is a basic matte gray finish okay? Or do you want that polished, modern look? Your answers are going to point you directly to the right material every single time. So, in the end, the choice really boils down to this one question. It's not just about metal, it's about time. For your next project, are you investing for right now, or are you investing for decades to come? Are you just trying to solve a problem for today, or are you building something that's meant to last a lifetime? Your answer to that tells you everything you need to know. Thanks so much for joining me.